Our News from the Hill segment tonight. Turmoil is plaguing the Trump administration after President Trump has taken to Twitter to attack Attorney General Jeff Sessions. According to reports, much of the animosity stems from Sessions recusing himself from the Russia investigation, a move that angered Trump. So will the two be able to smooth over tensions, or is it time for a change of scenery for Attorney General Sessions? With me now, retired Navy commander and former Pentagon spokesperson, J.D. Gordon. J.D., good to see you.
Hey Liz, great to see you.
J.D., this is a bit atypical, I'll use that word instead of unprecedented, to see the President of the United States publicly attacking his Attorney General on Twitter. I want to show some of these tweets on the screen right now, but President Trump is essentially letting Sessions have it for not investigating Hillary Clinton. What do you make of this?
Well, Liz, as you know, I was the National Security Advisor in our policy office for the campaign, and as such, I was the director of the National Security Advisory Committee. Senator Sessions at the time was the chairman of the National Security Advisory Committee. So he and I worked very closely together over a 6-month period. He's one of the greatest people I've ever met in my entire life, let alone work with. So I feel terrible for him right now. That said, I understand President Trump is very frustrated because he didn't want Attorney General Sessions to recuse himself from the Russia probe, because now you have a special counsel that's really going after Mr. Trump and his finances and finances of his family too, apparently.
Right. It seems to have spiraled a bit out of control. I guess I don't quite understand the attacks in the sense, I do understand the frustration, and we'll get to that in a minute. I don't understand the attacks or the surprise, because 10 days prior to President Trump's inauguration, Jeff Sessions actually testified in front of Congress that he would recuse himself if it came to any investigations into Hillary Clinton because of the role he played attacking Hillary as a surrogate of Trump's campaign. So that shouldn't have come as a surprise to the president.
Well, I think what came as a surprise is that the Attorney General did it without consulting him. The president really is not a creature of Washington. He's a reality TV star and a New York billionaire who got famous in the real estate and entertainment industry. So he's not really into all the rules and regulations and specifics of Washington. Now the senator is, so he knows. So Mr. Trump, at the end of the day, really doesn't care what the protocol is. He's just very unhappy that this situation has now led to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, who's a friend of Jim Comey,
right,
looking at the Trump finances for years.
Right, and that part I understand. That part I relate to. The frustration over Robert Mueller. I mean, the attorneys that Mueller has staffed his investigative team with have extensive ties to the Democratic Party. I think they're all almost exclusively Democratic donors. Some of them even donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign. And maybe it's an impossible proposition in Washington, D.C. these days to find someone who's truly impartial, but it seems to me that this team, unless they add some balance to it, unless they add some conservatives, it seems like it would be biased, like it wouldn't be an objective investigation. But, J.D., going back to the Hillary Clinton crimes, and I do consider them to be crimes, why hasn't she been investigated or prosecuted since Trump took office?
Well, that's a good question, and that's one the president keeps tweeting about also, directly at the Attorney General. So I think they should look at Hillary again. I mean, certainly we've seen enough Trump-Russia news for a lifetime, so I do think we should see Hillary brought up again, and the Attorney General hasn't done that.
Right, and news, I think you're being a little bit broad using the word news when it comes to Trump and Russia. Maybe fake news, maybe false narratives here. News might be a little strong. All right, JD, so there are also reports coming out of Washington that Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is angered by these attacks from President Trump on Jeff Sessions, that he's taking a little vacation, a little time off. Of course, his office says that he's just tired from traveling abroad, and that may be the case, but there's also reports that the State Department has been openly defiant toward the White House and that they have not been following Trump policy dictates when it comes to foreign policy. And JD, I think we can see that for ourselves.
Yeah, there are a couple crystal clear examples with the Iran nuclear deal. The State Department is trying to advance that still and saying, oh, there's nothing this year, no problems. The State Department also put out a very damning report against Israel, which was partisan and pro-Palestinian. So I imagine that Secretary Tillerson had a really bad day, because he probably didn't know it was going to come out. If he did, he didn't do anything about it. He probably had a really bad day with Jared Kushner then, because let me tell you, Jared is the person that holds a lot of sway over the State Department. Secretary Tillerson probably didn't think he was signing up for that, but I know in the campaign that Jared has a lot of power, and Secretary Tillerson probably didn't think somebody in his 30s would be essentially having that much sway over the State Department.
Right, and I find it hard to believe that he didn't consider the optics of this situation. I mean, taking a vacation right on the heels of these reports just gives the impression, at least, that he's running away from it, that he's hiding from the media coverage. I mean, the idea that the State Department released something that's a statement that said that they can't pinpoint the motivation behind Palestinian terrorists attacking Israel, or that the Palestinian Authority, the government of the Palestinians, rarely incites violence against Israel. I mean, that sounds like something that came out of the Obama State Department, not something that we should see under Trump.
Well, you know, most career Foreign Service officers and most civil service officials at the State Department lean left, some of them heavily left. And also, they're getting this 37% cut advertised by the Trump administration. So at the State Department, they're pretty much horrified with Trump, most people. Secretary Tillerson really hasn't pushed back on that. However, you know who Secretary Tillerson has pushed back on? The Trump campaign. People like me who were senior officials on the campaign, senior advisors, you don't see any Trump officials in senior positions in the State Department. Tillerson wants to keep them out. The very few people that did end up in the State Department with full-time jobs who are affiliated with the campaign are in very junior positions and few and far between. So I have zero sympathy for Secretary Tillerson. If he quits this year, that's no problem for me.
Right, and I mean, given his behavior, I don't know him personally, but given his behavior on certifying the Iran deal, on encouraging the president to stay in the Paris Climate Accords, fortunately, Trump didn't take that advice, and then his comments on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I mean, he's not what we voted for when we voted for Trump here. But last question, JD, and try to make this very quick if you can, because we're almost out of time here. Why is Tillerson defending these career staffers that are holdovers from the Obama administration? Why doesn't he accept the Trump White House recommendations of people like you to serve in the State Department?
Well, I think that he thinks the career people have been there, they know how to run the ship, and he doesn't want Trump people in the administration. But guess what? Tillerson didn't do anything for the campaign to get President Trump elected. Zero that I can tell, so I won't miss him.